you want to be treated, are you actually showing any kind of mindfulness to what they need out of a communicative event? Because again, just like we talked about, in a perfect world, they're accommodating to you and you're accommodating to them, so everybody is kind of meeting in the middle somewhere. Okay? That's all that is. It's just a fancy way to say that. Okay. Let's talk about emphasis on the wrong syllables. Emphasis in the wrong syllables, right? So, some person, I need people to play with me, okay? And we're going to go around, and we're going to read these statements. And whatever is bold and underlined leaves an emphasis. I'll do the first one for you. Ready? I didn't say he stole the money. Okay. I didn't say he stole the money. So what could that mean? She said it, right? Okay, go next.
I didn't say he stole the money.
What could that mean?
I didn't say it, but
I didn't.
maybe
I wrote it, right? Okay, next.
I didn't say he stole the money.
probably nodded.
Probably what?
Nodded.
Probably thought it, right? So maybe read it on your face. Okay, next.
I didn't say he stole the money.
So who might have? She did, right? Okay, next.
I didn't say he stole the money.
So what could he have done with the money? Borrowed. Shoved it in his shoe. Who knows? Right, next.
I didn't say he stole the money.
So what money did he steal? What money? That's that
Maybe
money.
money that's not
That's
as
the money.
important.
Right. Less important money.
Mhm.
Money is money to me. Okay. Last but not least.
I didn't say he stole the money.
So what did he steal? Right. So he stole something else.
Mhm.
This is the same sentence with an emphasis on a different word that changes the meaning of the entire communicative event. So when you get in a fight with your mom, and she's like, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. Take a step back and think about this exercise about stealing money. Okay? Think about it. It happens. This is so relatable. That's why I love communication, because it's everywhere. Okay? It's so relatable. You really have to be mindful about the way you say things. If someone comes in and like, nice shoes, what does that mean? Like, but if I'm like, those are really nice shoes, it changes it, right? It changes everything. Okay, it's not what you said, it's how you say it. Y'all, please take a look at this chart for just a second. And if you can't see, I'll read it to you. This little tan, goldish area is body language. This dark blue portion here is tone and volume. This red percentage, that's 7%, is the actual verbal words that come out of people's mouths. People pay more attention and assign more meaning to your body language than they do the actual words coming out of your mouth. So if I came up here and I stood here like this the entire time, would y'all think I wanted to be here? The teacher in grad school, all my classes were at the 9th period from 6 to 9:15, after we were working all day. And she came in, and we loved her. She's fantastic. But we were all so tired. And in a grad class, there's like maybe 10 people in it. Maybe that's a big class for a grad class. She came in, and she brought in a mirror, and she flipped it around to us so we could see ourselves. And she goes, this is what I have to teach to every Tuesday night. And all of us were like, sit up a little straighter, because all of us are literally like, sitting back, not paying attention, laying your head on your desk. She's like, y'all are killing me. You're just taking my energy. It looks like you don't want to be here. And it wasn't that we didn't want to be there. We were just tired. So from that point forward, we had to be a little more mindful about what we were doing to her, because it was communicating to her that we didn't want to be there, or that we didn't care about the content. So think about that when you're sitting in a classroom. Some of you were like, so good straighter now. Think about that when you're in a classroom, that it really does communicate whether or not you're interested. And people pay far more attention to tone than words. 86% of meaning is assigned to a person's tone of voice. My daughter had a teacher at her daycare who's no longer there. And this teacher was not mean. The words that came out of her mouth were not mean, ever. But my daughter comes home and says, Miss So-and-so is mean. And I said, why is she mean? She talks mean. It's because she had a very harsh way of saying things. And she was very loud. So to a 2.5 or a 3-year-old, she's yelling all the time. This starts really young, y'all. That's why we have to be really, really, really intuitive about how we say things. So we know what verbal and nonverbal cues are, yes. Okay, so the verbal things are tone of voice, enunciation, pronunciation, articulation, all that stuff. So how you say the words, how it comes out of your mouth. Some of us, there are some things that are genetic and we can't control it. The tone and the pitch of your voice, you can change it a little bit, right? So I could go like this if I wanted to, and I could go like this if I wanted to, but the natural pitch of my voice is this. But nonverbal, everybody's got a different set of thinking, or a different set of standing. Everybody stand up for me right now. Stand up and stand however is comfortable. Don't think about it, just stand up. What's comfortable to you? Okay, so some of you have your hands behind your back, some of them behind your pocket, some of them are right here. Some of you have shoulder width apart, others are standing very close together. Some of you are doing what we like to call the flamingo, right? You shift your weight from one side. Some of you are leaning on the desk because it's in front of you and that's what's comfortable because you feel like you need to grasp onto something. Some of you have good posture, you lead with your chin. I have a best friend, I kid you not. This is her posture. That does not look normal on me because this is not me. But on her, totally normal. She walks like this, she walks with her feet forward. Okay, y'all can sit. So be mindful of what your body normally does. In our public speaking class, is the first thing we do. First we just get used to this thing we have, it's called a body. You gotta get used to it, and gotta get used to what it does. Just like the thing with the face. If you don't know what your face looks like when it's resting, ask your friend. A good friend will tell you. Promise, okay? All right, nonverbal stuff also has to do with proxemics. Anyone know what proxemics are? Yes. Yeah. So different cultures have different levels of what's acceptable. I had someone I went to school with, and I feel like my bubble's not all that big. Like, you can get pretty close to me. I'm cool with hugs and high fives. Like, that's great. But he would literally stand so close to my face when he would speak, and he did it to everybody. And I could just feel myself doing this motion every time, or like finding an excuse to, because it made me uncomfortable. So we have to understand that we tend to assume that everyone's okay, but you need at least a hand, an arm, like between you, just rule of thumb, between you and the next person, okay? So just my little thing on proxemics, okay? So let's switch over to listening, because listening is fun. We know the difference between hearing and listening. What's hearing? So y'all heard that, right? Did you have to listen very well? Like, it's just something dropped, right? Okay, so what is listening?
Understand. Yeah.
Listening to understand, putting meaning to it. It's a science, it's decoding. You learned that just 20 minutes ago. Decoding. Listening is decoding. Okay, that's all it is. So, 70% of our day is spent communicating. That doesn't mean talking, that just means communicating. Okay? 75% of oral communication is ignored or forgotten. 75% of the words you say, people do not resonate on, people don't care, but they're gonna remember the dirty look you gave them, and they're gonna remember that you didn't listen. So if you're on the phone, I do this to my sister a lot. She's the loudest person I've ever met in my whole life. She's just naturally loud, and she's also a PE teacher in elementary school. Like, she's just loud for a living. So when she calls, I tend to do one of these numbers, or just leave it sitting on whatever chair, and I walk around and do other things. Most of the time, it's effective. Do what? Oh no, I don't have to put her on speaker. No. If you think I'm loud, she makes me sound really quiet. So a lot of times that's happening, and then it'll get to a point where she's like, "Did you hear what I said?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't. I heard you, but I wasn't listening." Because I can hear her from anywhere. Okay? But here's where the real problem is. Okay? People listen at 280 to 560 words per minute. Okay? And that's faster than what you can speak. Why might that cause a problem? than just what's happening right in front of you. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. You can hear everything. Like I said, the whole noise, the distraction. Some of y'all have like a light bulb, like, that's why I'm distracted all the time. Because your body is built that way. Crazy, huh? Okay. So when we break this down, we talk about the 70% of a day communicating. 9% is writing. It might be less than that unless they count. If you count text messages, I think this is wrong. 16% is reading. Again, if you count text messages, I think this might be wrong. 30% is talking and 45% is listening. So really the majority of what you do every day is listening. And so many of us have really, really, really poor listening skills. So how do we make this better? Active listening. You can cheat. The answer is right here. But what is active listening?
When we listen to gain information or pleasure.
Not pleasure. Active listening requires an evaluation process to where you're assigning meaning to the words and you're resonating on it. Those thoughts are continuing to squish in your brain, and then you have feedback or a reaction to it. That's what happens when you're actively listening. Now, passive listening is exactly what you just said with the listening for like enjoyment or entertainment. People who have an earbud in. Okay, I do this when I work sometimes too. I just need some music, but I'm gonna leave this one out so I can hear what's going on. That's listening for enjoyment because I'm not actually listening to learn anything from that music, right? It's just there as a filler. And sometimes that happens when you just want to absorb yourself into the surrounding. Has anyone ever just sat outside and just like sat there, just listened to all the noises happening? You're not actively listening. You're getting out of your own headspace. Okay? So that's the biggest difference. Understand the basics of listening. Appreciative listening. You want to take a stab at what appreciative listening might be?
Sorry.
No, you're good.
No, he was speaking.
Keep in mind that the next one that we're going to talk about is empathetic listening. So appreciative and empathetic listening are different. So what might appreciative listening be?
Listen for pleasure.
Hmm?
Listen for pleasure.
Yeah. You're listening because you appreciate it. You appreciate who's your favorite music artist? You don't know? Anyone have a favorite musician? Favorite artist? What? Right? So when you need to be in a good mood, that's your go-to, right? That's appreciative listening. It's because you want to. You have chosen to listen to that event. So empathetic listening, I'm going to pick on you because you had the right idea. What did you say?
Caring.
Yeah. Empathetic listening is listening to care. You are fully immersed in that situation. You are listening to that person. You are giving them good nonverbal feedback. You are making eye contact. You are nodding. And you are saying no. And you are fired up. If they're fired up, you're fired up too. I saw a really good meme the other day that is, I have two best friends. One is a really good listener and very logical and helps me make the same decisions. The other one helps me do the ratchet things. And they'll get me hyped up, okay? The calm friend, that's your empathetic listener. My best friend is a marriage and family therapist. Could not be more grateful, right? Because I know she's gonna listen to me. She's really good at that. Okay. What's informative listening?
Listening for like info.
What you're doing right now. This is informative listening. This is what you do in the classroom, hopefully every day. Well, not every day. Monday through Thursday, Monday through Friday, whatever your class schedule looks like. Informative listening is listening to learn. It's what you're going to do until the day you stop getting an education, formal education. You should never stop getting an education, just formal education. And then lastly, critical listening. What's critical listening?
Problem solving.
Yeah. You're trying to solve a problem, or you're trying to make a judgment. So those of you who, the election, was this your first time voting? Those of you who voted? Okay. So when you made the decision to vote for whomever you voted for, you applied critical listening to the candidate's issues, to what they believe, to what they don't believe, to what they support, what their cause is, what their platform is. That is critical listening because you made a judgment. You made a decision after listening to them, right? Or reading about them or whatever it was. Okay. So when we go back to this active listening and passive listening, where do we think appreciative listening is active listening or passive listening? Passive. That's the only one that's passive. The rest of these require that active listening component, or you cannot successfully do it. Okay? All right. So is anyone not familiar with the Big Bang Theory, not the theory, the show? It's okay to say no. I want to make sure you understand what you're about to watch.
My teacher plays this, so
You have Dr. Sadowski, don't you?
yes.
You know the mirror story I told you? That was her who did that to us. She's awesome. Okay, so let's take a look. And in this situation, again,